Welcome to our first episode. I'm here with Evan Orellana, and he is with us to talk about everything Delray, including marine biology, the Sandoway House, surfing, and being an artist. So want to welcome him to the show.
Thank you for having me.
And it's good to hang out with you here today. Evan, you are the Director of Education over at the Sandoway House. So I know a little bit about this, being someone who brings youth camps to it in the summer. We bring our water sports camp over there, and we've had an opportunity to partake in the exhibits, do some different, like, almost science experiments, I would say, with some of the things that you do activity-wise with the kids. Could you share a little bit about what you do over at the Sandoway House?
Yeah, so the Sandoway Discovery Center is actually a nonprofit nature center that's built in a 1936 beachfront home. Back in the late 90s, it was turned over to the city. I forget the actual politics of it, but essentially to save the house and the property, it was made into our museum. I was hired about 8 years ago as the director of education over there. So my role is structuring the educational program, developing the lesson plans, implementing them. One of my favorite parts is teaching them, and just kind of, stewarding the next generation into knowledge and respect for the natural environment and issues that are relevant, especially as Floridians being in a state that is surrounded by such a delicate ecosystem there.
Recently, I saw some posts about the algae bloom. Isn't that what comes from Lake Okeechobee this time of year?
Yeah, they have a big, I want to say it's 300-mile, what they call a harmful algal bloom out there right now. Yeah. So they're all getting worried because it's a common thing every summer, but the problems arise as they have to deal with discharging the water, what they need to do. And there's no easy answer, but it's something that affects all Floridians, whether you're in the north, south, any part of the state, really.
Sure. Yeah, everything from tourism to the quality of our marine life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And at the Sandoway, that's kind of what we touch on a little bit. We use education, showing cool animals and different, exhibits. But when you really get down to it, people leave knowing more about the environment and how they can even interact better, respect it, and ways they can help at home.
Yeah. Yeah. What triggered, so you're a marine biologist.
Yes.
And was that something you knew you wanted to get into from an early age?
Oh, man, yeah. So I'm originally from Manhattan, and my dad, he came to America as a teen. He didn't have a lot of opportunity that I had, and one day a week, that was his day with us. Every Sunday, he would take us to the Museum of Natural History, Central Park area, and I just remember, it was so fun to spend time with him, but just that museum and the dioramas they have, which were, by today's standards, pretty outdated, but they just showed you such a diversity of life that, especially in Manhattan, where it's just pigeons and some rodents sometimes, you don't really see everywhere. And the Blue Whale Cafe, if you've ever been to there before. I mean, that life-size model above and the ocean room was my favorite. And I'll actually never forget how I kind of got into what I'm doing now. It's kind of full circle. Is there was a children's discovery room there. And I always loved going there. It's where we'd hang out. It's just where you could literally drop the kids off and be like, all right, let's relax for a minute, But there was a volunteer there who, at the time, I assumed was the owner of the museum, if you ask a 5-year-old. But they would let me feed the little goldfish every Sunday in their little tanks.
Yeah.
I would have to defrost like a cube of bloodworms or something, like generic pet supermarket fish food.
But still the process.
Yes. Yeah. And at the time, I'm like, oh, this is high-tech stuff.
Yeah.
And I would feed them, and they would let me weigh it out and measure them, and I just never forgot that. So when I moved to Florida in second grade, because it was still very young, I remember just going through elementary school, and my teacher had fish tanks everywhere in his classroom. I mean, not just fish tanks, like reptiles, amphibians, stingrays, lionfish, eels, the coolest stuff.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, wait, this is a career too. We watched educational made-for-TV movies and stuff, and about a marine biologist, Voyage of the Mimi. Oh my God, that was the name of it. And I was like, you can do this for a living? You mean like I can explore the ocean and like study these animals, and you have more than just pigeons? I mean, that's a lizard out there. Lizards blew my mind.
Yeah.
Coming to Florida. I couldn't imagine that you guys had like dinosaurs. To me, running around, I thought that was insane. Like, you guys have dinos and crocs and gators. And so that kind of just led me through everything and kind of fell out of it in high school. They don't really have too much at the time. I grew up in Coral Springs. Yeah. It's great school program out there, but not a lot of marine science, you know, and we're far away from I say far away from the coast, but as Floridians go, pretty far away from the coast in Broward County. And I just went to school for civil engineering in FAU. And I remember I was just not happy. I was thinking about dropping out. I was kind of looking for a different career path, maybe something to do with mechanical work. And I opened up my undergraduate catalog, and right there, first page was Bachelor of Science, Marine Biology. Yeah. And I was like, that's it. That's what I got to do. I'm going to stick with it. I already have a few credits for that. Switched it over, and I'll tell you, it's been life-changing. I love what I do. I've never woken up and not wanted to go to work. I wear flip-flops every day. It literally set me on a career path. And, you know, they always say if you're happy in what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. Exactly, yeah. I don't really feel like I've worked anywhere. I have a career, but I don't really have to work at it. It's fun. It's who I am.
Yeah. And some of that stuff, I think, probably has to do with the scope of your work at the Sandoway. You are working in education and the material, the information behind marine biology, but also at the same time, the aesthetics of a museum, of what Sandoway House has to offer.
And it's funny, I never thought I would be a museum professional. I went the research route. I'm actually, at heart, a nidologist. I study jellyfish and their cousins, especially box jellyfish behavior. I have a few papers published on that subject. And I remember my first big job out of college was at Gumbo Limbo Nature Center, just as a turtle researcher. It was just a standard entry level, but fun on the beach every day. And they gave me an option to do a sea turtle talk or do something else. And I'm like, I'll try the talk. And I'm like, what if I can't do it? They're like, well, we have to let one person go at the end of the year. So the less you can do, the more likelihood. And the poor guy I was doing the talk with, he was leading it, but he had his family come. And I guess it was the first time he had his family and people he knew during his talk, and he panicked. Yeah. And he kind of went to the restroom and didn't come back in time. He was like a little nervous. Yeah. So I'm up there, and mind you, high school, college, I was the sweaty talker. I would stare at one person, I would sway, my voice would crack. Yeah. And then I just remember saying, all right, guys, I'm going to do this talk. My first time, literally, please don't be brutal. And people laughed, and I'm like, I got you. Okay. Yeah. So I turned around, literally turned my back to the audience, and started reading the slides verbatim on the screen. And people were laughing. They were funny. I was throwing out little jokes. And from that moment, I'm like, I have public speaking skills. I'm like, I can be goofy. I'm a pretty introvert person to begin with. But for some reason, when I'm talking about science or things I'm passionate about, I was like, wow, perfect.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And then from there, I worked at Loggerhead Marine Life Center and then in the school district of Palm Beach County for a while. And I just was like, I love education, but I'm also an artist. And I've always wanted to do something with museum design, the flow of everything. Yeah. Anytime you walk into a museum, there's a whole aesthetic of how they're directing you and stuff. And luckily, years later, I landed at Sandoway by accident at first. Yeah. And I've never looked back. It's been fun. It's been amazing, this whole journey.
Yeah. So was the outlet for that initially, you're thinking like structural or civil engineering would give you kind of like a design outlet? Was that where you kind of first started?
Yeah, I've always been artistic. I'm ironically the least artistic, I feel, in my family. My brother is an amazing artist. My father's an artist. My mom paints. And I just always felt overshadowed a lot. But when it came to museum work, and engineering is kind of artwork. It's kind of, civil engineering is planning a city. There's an aesthetic to it.
Sure.
And I just remember like getting to the Sandoway and I'm like, wait, I can actually curate the exhibit. So I have ability to not only control the content, but how you're seeing it. And it just became art for me. And thinking back to the Natural History Museum, how they laid out the flow, or the way I even walked through the museum is all planned. We think we're traveling, a path through this museum, like I want to see this, that. But the way they've set up the wording, the space, the lighting, they are guiding you through a story.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I've tried to do at the Sandoway, albeit with a structure you can't change very much.
Sure.
But to guide you through a walk through Florida's habitats, exploring shells, even pop-up exhibits we have, kind of just bringing it full circle and giving people the experience that I feel they should deserve in their museum.
Over the last year, are there certain moments where you can kind of see a participant really connect to what that flow is in the Sandoway and kind of,
Oh yeah, I'm such a nerd about it. I sit with my office door open and I hear people say, "Oh, honey, look at that sign. That's interesting." I come out, I'm like, "Hey guys, not to bother you, but what did you think? How did you like the exhibit?" Because before we're a small nonprofit and we're not with the best funding because it's all what we can do. But before the pandemic, we didn't really have a lot of time to change things up. So I would just listen to see what the experience is, what people say. "Oh, this room's boring," or "Oh, there's nothing here. Oh, it's just an owl." And I leave my head out of the office like, "Just an owl?"
Yeah.
I'm like, "That is an endangered species, man. You got to check that out." And then the shutdown happened. And luckily, we have an amazing board of directors, and my executive director, they were very fiscally responsible before. They were on that PPE right away.
Yeah.
I mean, we shut down before people had to shut down because museums back then, we felt a sense of responsibility, and we didn't really know how to tread on that.
Sure.
But they said, Evan, you're not teaching anymore. There's no field trips. There's no summer camp. That's 75% of your job income. But we got this. We're going to keep you on. Can you devote the time to change up this house? We know you do a little bit of construction for it, the design work. Let's see what you can do. And I'm like, all right, this is it.
Yeah.
I'm like, perfect. You mean I don't have to clean up my mess every day and I can just start building things?
Right.
And that was it. I started with our shell room. I ripped it apart. I changed up all the signage. We have an amazing shell collection, over 10,000 shells from around the world. I put them all on display and everything. And from that, I just started saying, all right, I got the direction, got my format down. Let's make this museum more than we've had it before.
That's
and
awesome.
it's been changing ever since. I'm almost done with the full spectrum of it. We started a huge project last week renovating our backyard.
Yeah.
The shark pool renovation. It's happening. Museum quality, new tarp, Stingray touch tank. And the best part is we're going to be, rather than taking from the wild, we're going to be rescuing unwanted pets and sharks and other things from aquariums, home, other museums. So
And that's been a lot of the mission of the Sandoway and what you've already done, right? If I see a parrot in the lobby or something like that, those animals were rescued or had been pets or couldn't be cared for anymore.
yes. And yeah, one of the things I did notice a lot when I first got there is people were unsure where these animals came from. Because, even the most hard-hearted person wants to know that these animals are here for a reason. They don't want to just think, "Oh, you guys got this animal just to put it in a life in captivity."
Right.
But then we let our visitors know every animal we have is there for a reason. You wouldn't believe how many unwanted pets people have every year, especially even sharks.
Yeah.
They get from the pet store, catch from the wild. Our unofficial mascot, Mr. Crystal, our blue and gold macaw, he was someone's pet. He was the first animal someone donated back in 1999 when we opened.
Wow.
So he's about pushing 40. He'll live probably well over 100 years, but kind of like our greeter. He greets people, yells at them to get out if you don't give him attention. But it's just been a nice blending of the museum and ethics that I feel really make it a wholesome family place.
That's awesome. It's definitely a place when we bring a group there that there's hopefully something for the young kid, the middle school kid. When they go through, they can get engaged with the shark feeding. They can get drawn into the story of a bazillion shells. You have so many shells in that shell room. It's pretty incredible. And if somebody takes the time to open a drawer, they're going to see stuff that they probably wouldn't have a chance to see anywhere else.
Yeah, and I've been hardworking a lot of technology, trying to incorporate technology now into it. It is tough in an older house, but bringing now QR codes, scannable things, touchless experiences. I have quite an ambitious plan for our pop-up exhibit room. Right now we have an optical illusion, but in the future I want to do something with augmented reality where you can come in, pop your phone in an Oculus holder, and you can explore under the sea. You can explore the Great Barrier Reef just by walking around that room. I've been getting into that a lot lately with my design work and stuff, so technology in the future.
That's cool. So your design work, obviously in 3D, is taking place in these rooms in Sandoway. And then are you doing graphic design with Photoshop, things like that? Is that your medium?
Yeah, I originally was more pen and ink when I was young, just doing what I can.
Yeah.
I never really got into color, a lot of painting, things like that. My brother did. He's went to school for art. He's a graphic designer.
Yeah.
But it kind of all came back to me after I met and now am married to my wife. She is a graphic designer as well. And she kind of exposed me to all the technology aspect of it rather than just pen and paper, which is still one of my favorite things.
Yeah.
I can't walk through the Ave without going into Hands and buying a $4, $10 pencil set and just having a collection of them.
And for our listeners who don't know, Hands is the stationery store and gift shop that's on the Ave that's been there forever.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sadly, I think it may not be longer, but as the way of the world.
Yes, Delray is constantly evolving. That's another episode.
Another time.
Yeah.
But, through that, getting these programs, the Adobe suites, learning that there's ways to bring not only your artwork into the new century, but also enhance it digitally, virtually. I feel like in the last, year, my design has really I've gotten back into it. I've started doodling again, kind of thought about like a philosophy behind it. And it's been pretty fun lately. I got to say, artistically, I feel like I've hit my stride for the first time in my career in life.
For somebody who has that bent and they have that desire, or maybe gifted that way, but they haven't really maximized it, like you said, it can be a journey to get to that place where you're feeling you're getting in stride. Do you think there's anything artists can do or graphic artists can do to step into that, both the technology that's offered today, so not be intimidated by it, but also just feeling like inspired to continue that process?
Yeah, it's a tough thing because art. I've always remember a quote that stuck with me. They said that from a young age, everyone is an amazing artist, but it just takes enough people to say, no, I don't really like that, and you lose your creativeness.
Yeah.
So when I just started getting back, I started the other way. I doodled, I draw. I have tons of books with just tons of little sketches. And then I started drawing it when I got an iPad, with the pen, getting into that. So I would say for artists, if you feel limited, try something different. Just visit other places, go to other museums, get down to make the journey down to Miami one day, see the art district, find inspiration anywhere you can. For me, I've just been lucky because out of my whole friend clique and everything, I am the only non-traditional artist. So I have inspiration literally at home, with friends, with family. It's hard for me to escape the art, and especially in Delray, because with civil engineering, I was big in architecture. Even walking in this building today, I'm like, wow, this is one of those old stucco homes from like the 20s. The curves, the line, the form, there's always a purpose behind it. So just don't feel yourself in a rut. Get out of there. Try something new. Try something different. Go back to what you know then after. You never know what will inspire you, and just don't lose hope for it.
Yeah, I think you got to remove those barriers, because those things that are either obstacles of entry, could be you're intimidated by the technology. Even like in music, that happens. Rage Against the Machine, Tom Morello, he's one of I feel like a great guitarist of our time.
Oh yeah.
But I heard him say on a video the other day that he sat with his gear for a while, and if you play music and you have a guitar, you have all these knobs on your amp, you have all these options with effects pedals. And so the range of sounds is limitless. You could spend hours and days and forever.
Even without a pedal board.
Without any of that. So he actually said in this video, he made a decision that he had gotten to a place where this is good. Like, I'm going to use this amp. I'm going to use these pedals. I'm going to not touch it. I've marked the spots of these knobs.
Don't change my gear.
And so it doesn't matter what guitar I play. This stuff is together here. And now that this is in place, I've crossed that barrier of entry to work with the gear. I'm just going to devote myself to being creative. And so that sort of just takes a weight off of someone when they kind of get past a barrier of entry.
Yeah.
And that could be, music. It could be art with something technology, or just criticism that you said like before that has kind of pushed people away from taking those steps.
Yeah. That's a perfect metaphor for life, man.
Yeah.
Just stick with it. Be confident. Don't let anyone tell you no. Just do what you got to do and feel good about it.
Yeah, that I agree. What kind of stuff do you like to do with design work as a hobby?
You know, as a hobby, I get a lot of inspiration from my wife and my friends and stuff, and just observing people and their emotions. I started doodling just general motifs. I actually, before this, I looked at all my design work I've done. I do a lot of stuff with hands. I find that, you know, especially as an educator, I talk a lot with my hands. It's tough if I can't, even now, I'm like moving this around. Body language conveys such an amazing emotion and stuff that words don't always help, you know? So a lot of it, just with these hands I draw, the gestures, I try to emphasize like the cycle of life, you know, emotions, things. And also through my art, I try to come up with my own interpretation of it, but I also get interested of what other people see. Because, you know, some people argue that art is you're meant to view it how the artist meant it. Like, but is it always? Like the Mona Lisa, what do you see what was the intention behind it? The famous smile. Was she smiling? Was she smirking?
Right.
Was she annoyed? It's very interesting to see the interpretation of it. And then also I do a lot of like wildlife illustrations and things, bringing it back to the museum port. I do all the exhibits there. I do every design work is my own drawings, my own creation. I do all the typesettings and stuff. And it's just been a really cool, I've just such a creative journey that I can express myself either fine art artistically or graphics in the museum. It's just been amazing.
That's awesome. One of the outlets that you've had that takes digital medium, social media, and our community of surfing. So we didn't really mention surfing yet, but we both really love the fact that Delray, while it's not consistently a surf destination, has its moments through the year. And so surfing is one of my favorite hobbies and things to do. And I would guess you'd probably say the same.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, when I got down to Florida, first thing was I had to learn to swim, which was an interesting thing with pools and stuff and water. But I just remember in Coral Springs, you know, you're far out west. You're as far as west as you can in Broward County. There's just the Glades right next door, Sawgrass Expressway. And every weekend, it was a straight trip down Sample Road, hit US 1, get up to Hillsborough, and Deerfield Beach. That was the spot. And Island Water Sports, the Cottrells, you know, I mean, they were there. And I grew up surfing right at the pier there. I say surfing, but it was like one of those styrofoam boards you get at Publix, like the ones you break every day. But then BC Surf and Sport opened up in Coral Springs, and it was a skate shop. I was a big skater because that's what we did out there. I had my, you know, Element Featherlight board, my Grind King trucks. I mean, CCS was the catalog you could get.
Yeah, that was where you could spend hours of looking at, I want to get this,
circling
get
things
that.
And just waiting for that save up. China Bone Reds, you know. But they had a rack of surfboards there, just a few. And I remember getting standard Fun Shape 7.2 Orion, and I brought it out to the beach and just kind of like trying my best to get at it and surf. And I was okay. Like I charged it as much as I could. But then in college, I kind of fell out of surfing. And then in college, FAU has an amazing program called Harbor Branch Oceanographic Institution. It's up in Vero Beach. You go live there for a semester. You're 10 minutes away from Fort Pierce Inlet. Or an undisclosed inlet, I should say.
A secret spot.
A secret spot, never mind. But my roommate up there, because I was with other students, she was a competitive surfer. And van life, before van life, was what it is today.
Yeah.
And she took one look at my dinky little fun board, and she's like, hold up, come over here. Come look at my van. She opens up her van, and I'll never forget, was like 20 boards.
Wow.
Wall to wall, all in perfect racks, different sizes, and she pulled out a 9-foot Donald Takayama in the pink, and she's like, "This is yours. You go surf on it. Go to the inlet. Go to Pepper Park. Do what you can, and learn how to ride this board for Florida. Because fun board's not always the best for a Florida wave, and it's kind of that weird in between." And I was a little nervous about Fort Pierce because at that time it was slightly a little territorial with some locals there. So I went to this Pepper Park, which was a very elderly used beach. All the old people out there put up their sand fences, the ancient sand fence that they do. And I just learned to surf better there. And it was so funny because it was like having a whole cheerleader squad. If I fell, I could hear a collective, "Oh, no, it was okay." And then I got a wave. I'd hear people go, Oh, awesome. Oh, he got that wave. Yeah. And that was it. I just didn't stop surfing and surfed and surfed. And then coming up to Boca, Delray area, I found out, hey, there's other people out here. Let's do this. Spanish River Park.
Yeah.
And it's gone from there. And now I pretty much surf every day after work. If there's waves, I'm on there, 1 foot to 10 feet, whatever I can, you know?
That's awesome. Social media thing that I referenced is that you run the Delray Beach Surf Club,
Yes.
which is a community kind of social media account that also ties into events that you do, movie nights, things like that. What kind of inspired you to go that route of creating that?
You know, I think it's been maybe about 3 years now that we've been running. I'm a very friendly person. I go out places, people always say hi, people always see me. For some reason, like I could be anywhere at a gas station, someone will come up to talk to me to ask for something. I just am very approachable.
Mm-hmm.
And I just go a lot of places in Florida, down to Miami, Deerfield Beach, Lauderdale by the Sea, Jack's, Ponce. And I started noticing everyone was like, hey, you're that dude. Hey, what's up, man? And I'm like, oh, this is cool. It's kind of like a little family. We're all buddies. And then I just remember one day at Delray, it was just me and a whole bunch of friends. And I looked around the lineup, about 50 people out. And I'm like, I know everybody here. Everyone's coming up to say hi. I'm saying hi to everybody. I'm like, this is like a little club. This is like a little social network of it. And I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna get everyone together for drinks and a beach hang.
Yeah.
And it just started snowballing there. And I originally made the surf club page as just a way for all the friends to kind of be on the same chats and stuff.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, you know what? I'm doing this. I made a logo for it. I'm like, I'm not a lifestyle brand. I didn't want to make like clothing or do like certain other things like big competitions and stuff. And I'm like, I'm just going to post pictures of locals doing cool stuff on waves. We'll have some movie nights. We'll get together. I'll promote a bunch of the surf shops. I'm good friends with the Cottrells. I know the heavy sides, like even in Delray, the drop-in surf shop, surf district.
Yeah.
It's been the Saltfly, the drop-in. I've just always been there, and I paddle boarded for a while too, race-wise, competitively, and just knowing a lot of the watermen out there, I'm like, this is a sign. This is a good thing to do. And to be honest, we've snowballed from that. Like, it's so cool to see the momentum.
Yeah.
So much so that we got mostly other longboarding groups and crews in neighboring counties to start their own clubs.
Oh, nice.
So now we have about 6 kind of like underground surf clubs in Miami, Stewart, Jack's, St. Augustine, tons of stuff.
That's cool. Yeah, the fact that it kind of brings people together is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, I tell people a lot with that, too, because you hear a lot of surfers online complaining about the social media aspect. It's brought a lot more attention to surfing. It's brought more crowds and stuff. But it's that double-edged sword because it's also revitalized our whole culture.
Yeah.
Surfing in the late 90s, early 2000s, the ASP was still going on. Kelly had just won that comeback, that 7th title.
Right.
But longboarding and stuff was kind of like, I had the progressive longboard. It was a 3-fin. I wanted to do airs and spins.
Floaters and all that stuff. Yep.
But social media kind of showed people that, hey, there's this aesthetic to it. There's this art form in surfing. It's not all about rad stuff and smacking the lip and tearing it up. And you can be relaxed. You can chill. You can have a family at the beach, And I think that just kind of went from there. I'm like, that's the good part about social media. It brought surfers together and really has revitalized the surfing scene in Florida. Florida's come back over the last 10 years with everyone surfs. People love it. It's not just pack sun anymore.
Yeah.
It can be lucrative to have a surf shop these days.
Yeah, and I've also seen more local shapers. I feel like that's been a shift in the last 5 years.
Oh, yeah. And, especially the one random thing out of this whole pandemic is outdoor recreation stuff has taken off. So much so that I have a friend, Tony, who runs Clean Ocean Surfboards up in Ponte Vedra. And he actually just shut down his surf shop because he can't keep up with demand for all the surfboards he needs to make.
Oh, wow. So he had to make a choice.
Yes. And he's like, well, he made surfboards for years. Clean Ocean is a staple in Central and North Florida. So he's like, forget this shop.
Yeah.
I'm back to it.
Wow.
And that's a rare thing. And
that is.
Especially all the local shapers, a lot of them around here, whether it's Mellow Shapes or Aristotle boards. They're all doing amazing stuff. Bird,
Yeah.
you know, they're all. It's an exciting time
Hmm.
for the surf culture, I should say.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's what you mentioned with the social, like basically the connecting of people to the culture, and people are no longer afraid to venture away from the thruster. You know,
Yes.
I think that longboarding plus experimental shapes has changed the way that people buy a surfboard.
Absolutely, absolutely. And, you know, just also the aesthetic of it. And, you know, to the thrusters and the shortboards, there's some cool stuff happening there too. You know, people are getting back into retro
Hmm.
stuff, whether it's, you know, a shortboard, but with a twin fin, not meant for a fish, or the duo fins where they're like close together.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really exciting. And social media allows people to see that, allows these local shapers to say, hey, I want to try that asymmetrical, weird style that guy in California is doing.
Yeah.
It's kind of allowed our community to become more of a whole,
Hmm.
you know, as a blessing and a curse.
Sure. Sure. Yeah. What can people expect to see Delray Surf Club do in the future?
Oh man, so you know, I have so much interesting kind of ambitions out there. More movie nights. You know, as we move into the summer, it's a little tougher. Florida gets a little uncomfortable with the weather in the afternoons and the evenings sometimes, but definitely I want to do more movie nights. You know, showcasing a lot of local clips. I'd love to get more video from swells down here. We always try to show like the local clips from that big day that you might have missed or you were
Sure.
out there, and kind of I love watching people's expression when they're like, "Hey, that's me."
Yeah.
And then just local edits. But one of the cool things that I really want to do, my friend down in California, Logan Antil, with a surfboard brand called Eternal Life, he's been doing this thing called Community Venture Program.
Yeah.
Actually, I just realized I have the hat on.
I
I'm
see
wearing.
that,
Yeah. But it's all about getting people out there, shapers, people interested in getting aboard, meeting up on the beach, bringing their own shapes, the weird stuff, the
Yeah.
stuff you just made for the hell of it, and experimenting, exchanging ideas about rail shape, bottom concaves, kind of sharing the knowledge out there. And then hopefully the idea is hooking up local surfers with these local shapers so they can get that board made and they
Yeah.
can support somebody shaping out of a garage or doing this here rather than, you know, and nothing wrong with California shapers or things, but bringing it more full circle into Florida.
Sure.
So that's my big ambition this summer, is to do our own kind of version with their blessing, just to kind of share the hand shape back, bring it all back, the tools, the process. And we got some amazing shapers here that just lack the exposure for people to know what they do and what they, you know, whether it's not just shaping, glassing, resin, all that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Everything that's involved.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. You mentioned California. I think you were talking about you're going out there maybe soon for a surf trip.
Yes, my first time. I've been to the Pacific Coast in Guatemala and Oregon, and I haven't had the best luck with conditions or the wetsuit thickness. Didn't quite get that down the first time.
Yeah.
But it's happening in August. I'm gonna go Southern California. I think like Encinitas area.
Okay.
It's a mecca.
Yeah.
It's something I've always wanted to do. Why not do it now? You know, it's fun. I got everything set up. Purely surfing. Like my wife is coming, but I've told her like you got to realize I ain't going to this site. I ain't seeing this touristy thing. I am going to be at the beach here. I may wait in line for a few hours at Sano, but I got to do it. You know.
Yeah, well, you'll love it. It's definitely an experience.
I'm excited. It's stressful planning though, man.
Yeah.
Like California is not cheap, and then getting a board there or getting it back. Like,
Have you got all that figured out at this point?
I have. I heard Amtrak's not doing freight shipping right now.
Okay.
So I'm gonna take the chance and fly it. But my friend is gonna make me a board out there.
Yeah.
I've always wanted one. Actually, he used to live in Delray. He was one of the original crew that I would hang out before I made the surf club. He lived right behind the Sandoway.
Yeah.
And he's gotten amazing with his shapes now and just how his boards are designed. So I'm like, okay, I've always wanted a board from you when you were here.
Yeah.
But I'm coming out there. Make me a California board that also has some Florida appeal. And I'm going to get it. I'm going to bring it back, cross my fingers.
Yep.
But that's what I like to do. I always have one mid-length or longboard that I get from a friend shaper or a local hand shape. And every few years I'll trade it up and stuff.
Yeah.
but then I always go back to my.
For those non-surfers that are listening, traveling with surfboards on airlines is basically like gambling.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's roulette.
You don't know what you're going to get back, a full surfboard or pieces of it after it gets off the plane.
Oh yeah, padding, cardboard. I mean, I think my Google searches are all YouTube videos of how to properly pack your board bag.
Yeah.
Stuff your wetsuit in it, you know.
Yeah. Well, that I mean, it sounds like you've taken a few surf trips, but they've been marginal results with the waves. But I think that's one of the things that's really exciting when you get to that point in your surfing journey, that where you're starting to take trips to other destinations and surf new waves, meet new people. It's one of the amazing things about surfing.
Yeah, and that's also the cool thing, like I was saying about the surf club and just this online presence, is meeting friends over there. Like I have people I know I've never met, but we're friendly online, and I've talked to them, and they're like, "Yeah, I'll surf with you, man." So it's always better surfing with a crew, surfing with people you know. You feel more comfortable.
Sure.
And the more comfortable you are on the waves, the better you're going to surf.
Yeah.
If you're nervous, you're uncomfortable, you're alone.
Yeah.
You don't really have that same experience. You know, obviously people like less crowded waves, but I always like the camaraderie out there. I always like surfing with a buddy. You know, cheering him on, high fiving if you can on the wave if you see him. Just kind of like that. And that's why I love surfing Delray. We get allegedly some good waves. But when I'm out there, it's like everyone's there, you know, friends that I only are friends with in the water. I never really see in life,
Right.
but they're out there. I'm very sure that's how I met you out there.
Yeah, for sure.
Because everyone's at the Sandoway. I'm there seeing. I'm like, oh, that guy. Oh, that's Matt. Okay.
Yeah.
Originally, I know everybody by their boards. Did you have like the green? Like,
There was a green longboard that
Yeah,
I had.
yeah.
Yeah. It broke. The second time it broke, it was done. Yeah.
after the first one,
Yeah,
if there's something in the middle, it's on borrowed time.
Yeah, it was a failed paddle out with a big wave coming in Delray that took it out. Yeah.
Yeah.
But once you get to that point, it's lived a good life, you know.
Yeah.
So.
And you know, the surf breaks around here are so cool too. And you know, Delray, of course, does its magic once in a while, but other places are great for chop, and that's why I'm really excited about California.
Yeah.
Is I'm excited to see how I do on that point wave, on something where I don't have to worry about the Florida predict. You know, what's the next move? What's the next changing of the wave? How am I going to handle this section as it evolves on the sandbar?
Sure.
Whereas California, I'm like, okay, right at that point, it's going to break. Here's where I'm going to cut. That's where I'm going to get out on.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm so excited.
That's so cool. Well, if anybody listening has some waves to give him out there in California, he's ready.
Yeah, man.
So he'll be out there in a month or so, or
yeah, in a month or so. I love to hook up with a glider, something long, like a 10-foot or 11-foot, and just see if I can catch an outside thing.
I had an experience in La Jolla years ago on a 12-foot board. It was quite an experience when you're just on this thing that the wave isn't anywhere near breaking, but you're riding the wave.
You're riding it.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
The power in the ocean out there. And I found out my first time in the Pacific was in Guatemala that the energy of the wave is a totally different story there. We think we have swell here, but swell out there, it's something to respect, you know.
For sure. So, where can people connect with you? What's a good way to either see what's going on at the Sandoway or what's something you want people to know about?
I say the best thing at the Sandoway, follow our social media. We try to update as much as possible. We're a very small staff, but we have big changes coming. Everything is in progress now, renovations, bringing the technology to the center, new exhibits. Definitely that way, www.sandoway.org. I try to post as much there. Our Facebook, interact. Instagram, I check it. So, if anyone's interested in nature, in Delray, learning a little history, come on down. We're a small center. It's super affordable to come in. We're open. We got so much stuff, and our staff is just amazing. They, our naturalists, our director, our volunteers, I can't say enough about them. They're all local kids, and they...
Are there any opportunities to volunteer at the Sandoway?
Oh, yeah. If you're 15 and you have an interest in science, nature, or just want to, talk to people and interact, we take volunteers. If you're in science, if you're really a college student and stuff, you could be our intern, and you could actually help me take care of sharks, learn about husbandry, drop a big word, elasmobranch science, sharks and rays.
Yeah.
Just a whole bunch of that. But I'm excited. We're definitely... The Sandoway is evolving, and it's really cool to see where we go with this and how we deal with the future.
That's awesome. Yeah. Well, I know that people will want to check you out online. Thank you for being on our first episode here.
No, thank you for having me, man. This is awesome.
Yeah, you'll need to come back after you've been to California. You can tell us how that whole thing went with the surfboard.
Yeah, tell my experience of hopefully I get that board back to Florida and you can check it out riding out there.
Awesome. Well, I know we'll see you during the summer with our camps coming by.
Yes.
Sandoway for field trips, and we'll see you in the water.
Yeah, awesome, man.
All right.
Thank you for having me. Awesome. Cool.
Thanks for listening to the Matty Corwin podcast. We are conversations about careers, art, surfing, and more. We are powered by CWS Camps, which offers water sports camps and challenge camp serving the youth of Boca and Delray. We also want to thank our business partners, Slavic 401k, Preferred Care at Home, and the French Bakery. And we are a nonprofit, so if you would like to donate and help us with our scholarship fund, you can donate online at cwscamps.com. And follow us on social media at Matty Corwin and at CWS Camps. Have a good one.